Hello everyone, this is my fourth vlog. I'm doing it about the Adnan Syed case. The case against Adnan Syed, which it's not actually a case against Adnan Syed at all. It is only a documentary meant to serve to poke holes in a case to shed doubt on a man's obvious guilt. I didn't watch it. I think from the details that I've heard is that they spent a lot of time on grass samples from where Haman Lee's car was parked and abandoned by Jay and Adnan Syed the day of her murder. And so 20 years ago, might mention that. So apparently these grass samples somehow serve to poke holes in the case as well, which is silly. And then also they poke holes in the case. Sarah Koenig, her serial documentary, and now her involvement in the HBO's documentary series. Sarah Koenig is a Peabody Award-winning journalist, investigative journalist, thanks to the Serial podcast. Which, I mean, it's good for her because, I mean, she really brought podcasts into the mainstream with her work on the Serial podcast. Great, but it came at a cost. The emotional torture of the family of a murdered girl 20 years ago, because it never ends. I just wanted to, so basically, I think what it comes down to is Adnan Syed, he met Haman Lee after school after asking for a ride, claiming that his car was broken down or that it was in the shop. This was corroborated by witnesses when he asked Hay for a ride, which actually was not true. He lent his car to Jay Wilds, his accomplice. Sorry, I'm smoking American Spirits to stay healthy. Go out. So on January 13th, the year 2000, he asked Haman Lee for a ride that he didn't need. He didn't need a ride. He had a car. He had a car available to him. He claimed that to police that he lent it to Jay that day because Jay needed to go to the mall to buy a birthday present for his girlfriend, even though Jay lived only blocks away from that very mall. And so apparently we're led to believe that Jay went all the way to school to borrow this vehicle, drive back to where around he lives to go get a present, and then drive back. So he went to borrow a car that he needed to drive to go to the mall that was only blocks away from where he lived. He's guilty. I mean, I'm sorry, Adnan Syed is so fucking guilty. It drives me crazy that there's this much attention brought to him, and there's that he is being treated like a fucking martyr when he is clearly fucking guilty. But anyways, the simple story is he strangled her. He killed her in her own car. Jay and him drove to Lincoln Park and to help dispose of the body. They abandoned the car. And witnesses saw Jay and Adnan together several times that day before they disposed of the body and after. Apparently, there's not enough evidence because cell phone tower records. The police fucked up. They didn't mention that incoming calls aren't valid with the cell phone records for some reason. I don't totally understand that part of it, but it's apparently very important. It's very confusing as to why these cell phone records are so important. Incoming calls are invalid. Outgoing calls are. There was an outgoing call to Nisha, who was Adnan Syed's girlfriend at the time, or love interest at the time. Adnan said that it was a butt dial made by Jay. So Jay, who had no motive, really didn't know Haman Lee at all, would have murdered her, I guess, is what maybe is one of the things that we're led to believe, but they're not really saying that. But Jay knew everything. Jay knew where the car was parked. He knew details of the murder. He knew that Adnan Syed was going to go to class, his final class, that he was going to go to track to speak to a track coach. And Jay knew all this. Jay told us to police, and which again just validates Jay's testimony, even though Jay's testimony is a little all over the place. The thing is, police officers, they need a case. They need to make a case that a jury can understand and believe, a coherent story that a jury can understand and believe. And they also wanted to save Jay's ass, and that he wouldn't serve any jail time in cooperating and aiding and abetting in a murder. Which is unfortunate. I think people should go to jail for that. I think Jay should have probably gone to jail for a few years, at least. He only had probation, and no further consequences for assisting in the murder of a young girl. That's unfortunate. So I wanted to get into this because I just feel so bad for this girl's family, who are having to relive this trial over and over and over again, when it's just like, can't they just be done 20 years ago? Couldn't that have just been it? You know, have whatever semblance of justice that they could have for losing their only daughter. So I want to read to you just a statement made by Haman Lee, the murdered girl's brother. To me, this is real life. To you listeners, is another murder mystery crime drama, another episode of CSI. You weren't there to see your mom crying every night, having a heart attack when she got the news that the body was found, and going to court almost every day for a year, seeing your mom weeping, crying, and fainting. You don't know what we went through, especially to those who are demanding our family respond. You guys are disgusting. Shame on you. I pray that you don't have to go through what we went through and have your story blasted to 5 million listeners. So that's her brother. This is a statement made by the family overall. The events of this past week have reopened wounds few can imagine. It remains hard to see so many run to defend someone who committed a horrible crime, who destroyed our family, who refuses to accept responsibility when so few are willing to speak up for Hay. She stood up for what was right regardless of popular opinion. Unlike those who learn about this case on the internet, we sat and watched every day of both trials. So many witnesses, so much evidence. We wish Miss Asia McClain had watched too, because then she would not do what she is doing. Whatever her personal motives, we forgive her, but we hope she will not use Hay's name in public, which hurts us to when we hear it from her. She did not know Hay, and because of Adnan, she never will. For those of us who saw the trials and heard the evidence, it's more clear than ever that Adnan is guilty and that his lawyer did the best job she could have for him. We are grateful to the media for respecting our privacy, but we ask that everyone remember who the criminal is and who the victim is. Weeks like this, it is easy to forget that 17 years ago, the beautiful blossoming song of Haman Lee was silenced forever by Adnan Syed. In her diary, Hay once wrote, do love and remember me forever. We do, and we always will. Thank you to the members of our extended family who support us through their presence at the proceedings. Please continue to keep Hay in your thoughts and prayers. So I think it's important, whatever you think about this case. I mean, first of all, if you think that Adnan Syed is innocent, I mean, okay, go for it. Think this piece of shit is innocent. I could just, anyways. So, a little thing about Adnan Syed. The week following Haman Lee's murder, he applied for a passport to Pakistan. Allegedly, supposedly to flee to Pakistan. That's what I think. Why was he applying for a passport conveniently then? You can't extradite from Pakistan. If you murder somebody in America and go to Pakistan, you will not be facing charges for that crime in Pakistan, nor will they require you to leave the country. Adnan Syed had a lot of family in Pakistan. His brother lived there for 4 years, from ages 13 to 17. His younger brother would spend summers there. They were had a lot of family members there, a lot of close family members there. Adnan Syed could have left the country at any time following Hay's murder, before his arrest, and had escaped any justice for Haman Lee's murder. The documentary, it's just, all it does is it doesn't prove he's innocent. All it does is poke holes in the case against him, which, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. yeah, it's not perfect. No case is perfect. I mean, it's just, but it's still beyond a shadow of a doubt, he is guilty. I mean, like, it's just, I mean, the way they go about it is just like, well, what if, you know, what if it was Dawn? What if it was Haman Lee's, you know, new boyfriend that murdered her? What if Jay acted alone? What if it was the Babadook? What if it was aliens? What if it was, you know, the Clinton administration that has had her assassinated? Like, what if, like, what about all of these little options? You know what I mean? But it's like, how about we go back to the one that makes the most sense? It was her possessive, jealous ex-boyfriend who felt rejected and lashed out by killing her. On one of the breakup letters she wrote to him, she wrote him two. On one of them, there was written, "I am going to kill her," written on the fucking breakup letter. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that is a turn of phrase. Some people say, like, oh, I'm going to kill you or whatever like that. But I mean, if that person actually ends up dead, then, you know, that says something. It does. Like, and also, like, his defense on the Serial podcast was so, like, I mean, just like even Sarah Koenig. By the way, Sarah Koenig, she is a Peabody Award-winning journalist. She knows Adnan Syed is guilty. You know what she said? That, like, what I just thought was very damning against her, was very unethical, and was just, like, something very inappropriate for her to have said, was that she said, oh, well, if Adnan Syed was white, he would never have been, you know, prosecuted. He would have never served jail time. I mean, maybe. We don't know that. Probably, actually. I mean, I remember my experiences. I've met girls in a boarding school who were Mormon, who had, you know, kind of an oppressive life at home because of religion. They lashed out by doing drugs, by having sex, by having eating disorders, by... This one girl I knew when I was in school in Utah, she had a job, an after-school job that she never told her parents about. Like, I mean, people, when you have, I mean, I'm not saying it's just like that it's because he had an oppressive, like, religious, like, you know, thing happening at home. I mean, that happens with Catholics, Christians, Mormons. You know, a lot of people have oppressive family members who project their religion on them in unhealthy ways. And it seems that, Adnan Syed was not a good student. He skipped class a lot. He partied a lot. He smoked weed a lot. He really did whatever he wanted. And he claimed that he went to mosque all the time. That's also a lie. He stopped going to mosque because he was kicked out for stealing. He stole from a fucking place of worship. He stole money from a place of worship. He was a bad kid. And so, who resented his parents? I mean... He fits a profile. He like, you can say he doesn't, but he does. That's a profile. That is a criminal profile of a killer. Anywho. But it's like his defense was, oh, it was just this ordinary, unforgettable day that anything could have happened. I don't remember. But it's like, no, it actually was. I mean, it was the day after he got it. It was the day after he got his first cell phone. He got his cell phone, the one that he lent to Jay Wilds. He got it the day before Haman Lee went missing. And then also it was an important day of Ramadan. So Ramadan was happening, which, I mean, if he went to mosque all the time like he claims he did, which he didn't, he would have probably have remembered that day. It was his best friend's birthday. Also, you would think that you would remember your best friend's birthday, that it was your best friend's birthday and the day. You know, that his girlfriend went missing. Witnesses saw him driving around all day with Jay Wilds. They were seen before Hayes' murder. They were seen after. So then there is corroborating evidence with these cell phone records that shows that they were together in that Nisha, whoever, who was his girlfriend, love interest, or, you know, so this girl he was pursuing, claimed that she spoke to them on the phone. From an outgoing call or something like that. It was like, he said it was just a butt dial or whatever, but it's just like, none of this makes any sense. All of this points to him. It points directly at him, and the evidence that they have supporting that his innocence is not fucking enough. It's just not enough. You can poke holes in any case. You can poke holes in it. That's the defense's job. I mean, it's the police's job. But they made a case. And it's valid. He did it. So I mean, I am actually very confused about the validity of the cell phone records. I mean, they would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jay and Adnan were together at the time that Hayes' body was being disposed of. Jay Wilds knew where her body was buried. He knew where her car was parked. He knew all of these details. And he also knew, again, he knew what Adnan Syed's plan was that was corroborated by his actions that day. He went to class for 30 minutes. He skipped all of his classes and then showed up for the final period for 30 minutes and then went to go meet Hay. He was a bad kid. He skipped class. It's ridiculous. Also, I also want to get into, like, there's Bonnie and Clyde syndrome. It's pretty common. Women fall in love with convicted killers. And they empathize with them, they fall in love with them, they fawn over them, and they'll do anything to help them. When Adnan Syed asked Haman Lee for a ride, he told her, and witnesses corroborated this, he told her the reason why he needed a ride was because his car was broken down. That is not true. He had his car was with Jay Wilds, who helped him dispose of the body. Knew details about the case that only he and Adnan Syed knew. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just like, was this little stoner kid, this little stoner loser kid, some criminal mastermind who was going to frame this kid for murder? Like this guy that worked at fucking Blockbuster? I mean, come on. No. He was an idiot. He was an idiot. He was a patsy. He was somebody that Adnan Syed could depend on that day to help murder his girlfriend. And going back, so Asia McClain, who is the star witness of this, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just like everyone is getting really angry at Adnan Syed's defense attorney because she was incompetent and not in pursuing Asia McClain as a witness. But you know what? Asia McClain's her witness testimony, which, by the way, Adnan Syed, he asked the cops when he was being detained how they were going to scrutinize letters, if they would read letters, and they told him, yeah, we do read letters that are written to inmates and stuff. And so he was like, okay, cool. And then he asked Asia to write the letter because she said she claimed she saw him in the library, which he never told police that he was in the library. Nobody else ever saw him in the library. There was no evidence at all except this one girl's testimony that Adnan Syed was in the library, a public school library after school where tons of students were there. Only one girl saw him. And she said that when in the letter, she fucked up and said that it snowed that day, that she remembered that she saw him because it snowed that day. Well, guess what? It didn't fucking snow on January 13th, the year 2000. It snowed January 14th, the year 2000. So she saw him the next day. That's not an alibi. She's not an alibi. Okay? Can we just drop this charade that this guy is innocent now? Guess not. No, we need to make another documentary. We need to take this to the federal courts, I guess. Hybristophilia, also known as Bonnie and Clyde syndrome. Women fall in love with criminals all the fucking time. I watched You on Netflix. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought that the love story was sort of endearing in a really freaky, kind of fucked up way. Women love that shit. They do. I relate to it. I get it. I do. But I'm not gonna, lie and be somebody's, fake alibi. I'm not gonna try and get a murderer out of prison because of it. That bitch. That girl, that Haman Lee has a mother. She has a father. She has a brother that are still alive. You're gonna let that girl's murderer go out into the streets because you want to fuck him? Bitch. God. Okay, sorry. Let me just get really... There's a lot of other details that go into this. That, I mean... Haman Lee was murdered by Adnan Syed. Adnan Syed did it. He's a killer. He's a girl killer. He should be in prison for the rest of his life. Because he should be in prison every day that Haman Lee is not alive. He should die in prison. That's what happens to people who do that, who premeditatedly murder people. Sarah Koenig, I don't know what your fucking deal is. You are a Peabody Award-winning investigative journalist. You know, by default, because you are a Peabody Award-winning investigative journalist, that Adnan Syed is fucking guilty. How much money did you get paid? I want to know how much money and how big is your house? What kind of car are you driving right now? Sarah Koenig, how much money did you get paid? How much money were you awarded when you won the Peabody Award? It's not right. She's a mother too. She's a mother. She has children. Sarah Koenig has children too. Anyways, that's just kind of what my thoughts are on that. I'm sorry I get so heated. There is a dead body. There is a life that's not being lived right now as we very well speak because of Adnan Syed. He is not a martyr. He's not falsely imprisoned. He did it. He should be in prison. Anyways, that's the Manic Pixie Dream vlog. I hope you all have a lovely day, and thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, share, whatever you want to do. It's up to you, but it's a huge support, so thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Bye.